Hello everyone, it's Rachel from Desert Blossom Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to share a new free crochet infinity scarf pattern. This is called the Snowbank Infinity Scarf. It uses a variety of stitches, puff stitches for this really pretty texture, alternating with some sections of simple single crochet. This pattern is a part of the Puff the Magic Stitch blog hop, and there are a bunch of other puff stitch crochet patterns all coming out today, so it's pretty exciting. If you'd like more information about that, you can see the links down in the description box, as well as if you'd like a free written pattern to follow along with as you watch this tutorial, or an ad-free PDF pattern that you can download. All the links for that will be in the description, so let's get straight into the tutorial. To start off, let's talk about materials. I used a yarn by We Crochet, who is actually sponsoring the whole blog hop with all the puff stitch patterns. So big thank you to them for this yarn. This is We Crochet's City Tweed Aran yarn. And Aran yarn is basically like a heavy worsted weight yarn. If I just hold this up, you can see it pretty much looks and feels like a worsted weight. So for making this pattern, you can just use a worsted weight yarn you have in your stash, or you can use a heavier worsted weight. It doesn't really matter, but you're going to want to stick to something in those general categories. And then for the hook, I am using an I or 5mm crochet hook. I have provided a gauge for this pattern in the written pattern, so you may need to adjust your hook size if you want to follow gauge. I will note that it's not totally necessary to follow gauge. It's necessary if you want your scarf to be the exact same size as mine, but if you're like me and you don't really like making a gauge swatch and you would rather just wing it, it's not that important. This is a scarf and it will be easy to adjust both the length and the width. To get started with your scarf, you're just going to make a chain of 44. This is just your standard foundation chain. I just went ahead and made it. And once you're done with that, we're going to do a pretty simple row for row 1. Skip the first chain, single crochet into the first chain, and we're just going to single crochet across this row. This is going to give us a nice foundation row to get started with before we start making puff stitches. So just go ahead and insert your hook and single crochet in every chain across, and when you get to the end you should have 43 single crochet. Alright, so here's my row of 43 single crochet. Pretty simple. Now we're going to start our main stitch pattern of the scarf. So go ahead and chain 3. This chain will count as a double crochet, and turn. Now we're going to double crochet in the next single crochet because this chain 3 is counting for the first one. So we're going to go right here and make a double crochet. Now we're going to start our puff stitches. So we're just going to skip one stitch and then we're going to make our puff stitches into this stitch right here. Now I'm going to go quickly through the puff stitch because I do have another tutorial on it. I will link it up here if you would like to check it out. But to make a puff stitch, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and you're going to want to pull up your loop a little higher than usual. Yarn over, insert, pull up another loop, and do that one more time. So at this point you should have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 6 of those loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2. That is going to be the puff stitch we're going to use throughout this entire scarf. It's never going to change. Now we're going to chain 2 and puff stitch into the same stitch. First loop, second loop, and third loop. Yarn over, pull through 6, yarn over, pull through 2. Now this is where kind of the repeating stitch pattern starts. We're going to skip 2 single crochet this time and double crochet into the next. And this is going to be the pattern we're going to repeat. We're going to skip 2 single crochet and make these puff stitches again. So here's our first puff stitch. Chain 2 and puff stitch again, 1 loop, second loop, third loop, yarn over, pull through 6, yarn over, pull through 2. Now once again we're going to skip 2 single crochet and double crochet in the next. So that is going to be what we're going to repeat across. Let's do it one more time together. Skip 2 stitches, puff stitch, chain 2, puff stitch into the same stitch, and skip 2, 1, 2, and double crochet. So go ahead and repeat that across, and I will meet you back at the end of the row. So here I am at the end of the row, and as you can see I have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. So I've just made my last set of puff stitches at this point, and to finish I'm going to skip just 1 stitch at the end. So at the beginning and the end we just skip 1, and double crochet into the last 2 stitches. So that is one thing that's going to be the same throughout this pattern, is there will be always 2 double crochet on either end. So to start our next row, we're going to chain 3, turn, double crochet into the next double crochet, because this is going to be the same for every row that we do puff stitches at least. Now for row 3, we're going to do something a little different. The main thing with these puff stitches in this stitch pattern is they alternate. So the main thing I want you to keep in mind is that anytime we have a set of puff stitches, we're going to work a double crochet inside it. And anytime we see a double crochet, we're going to work puff stitches inside it. So to start out, you're going to insert your hook into the chain 2 space and make a double crochet. Now we're going to take this double crochet here and make a set of puff stitches into it. So here is my first puff stitch, and just like before I'm chaining 2 and puff stitch into the same stitch. Now double crochet into the center of the next puff stitches and puff stitch set right here. Alright, so pretty straightforward. Just go ahead and keep repeating that. Double crochet, puff stitches, double crochet, puff stitches, all the way till we get to the end. So when I get to the end of this row, it will be just like the beginning where we do a double crochet in the set of puff stitches right before we skip over here and do 2 double crochet in the last 2 stitches. There we go. Chain 3, turn, double crochet in the first one just like usual. So now for row 4, this is row 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be kind of like row 1, except now we don't have the single crochets below us, right? So this time we need to put our puff stitches right here. So they're going to go in this double crochet, and it will feel a little bit crammed, but it's okay. That's how it's supposed to be, and it will work itself out. So go ahead and make your puff stitches into this first double crochet. Now remember, you still have your 2 on the edge, but this is the 3rd double crochet that we worked inside the puff stitches. Chain 2, puff stitch, and double crochet in the next set of puff stitches, and then puff stitches in the next set of double crochet. So as you can see, this row is very similar. We're still doing double crochets in the middle of the puff stitches and vice versa. So when you get to the end, you will do a double crochet in the last set of puff stitches, then puff stitches in this 3rd double crochet here, and then 2 double crochet on the edge. So it's going to be the same on both edges. And that is row 4. So here is my first 4 rows done. Now what you're going to do at this point is you're going to repeat row 3 and row 4 one more time. So you're going to go back to this one and do it once, and then go back to the one we just did and do it one more time. You'll have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So I'll meet you back when I finish those 6 rows, and then we'll learn the part where we do sections of single crochet. So here's what my work looks like after doing all 6 rows. My puff stitch section is now done, and we're going to turn and do row 7. So this time when we turn, we're just going to chain 1. This chain will not count as a stitch. We're just going to be single crocheting across. So go ahead and single crochet in the first stitch, the next double crochet. And now what we're going to do is we're going to skip this first puff stitch, and we're going to work 3 single crochet into this chain space right here. Now single crochet in the next puff stitch, the next double crochet, and the next puff stitch, and work 3 single crochet into the chain space. So this is what we're going to repeat across. We just have to skip the very first puff stitch, and we'll also skip the one at the end in order to get the right stitch count. But for the row repeat, we're just single crocheting here, in the double crochet, in the puff stitch, and then 3 in the chain space. So as you can see, it will kind of, the ones in the chain space will kind of come up into a little bump. That's fine. You don't really want to pull them out, because then this section will look wider than the puff stitches. So just kind of let them come up in their natural bumps like that. So go ahead and repeat across. So here I am at the end of this row. I just want to show you I've done 3 single crochet in the last chain space. To finish, I'm skipping this puff stitch and just working 2 single crochet in the last 2 double crochet. So that's row 7. Now for rows 8 through 10, chain 1, turn, and we're just going to single crochet across. So this is just a simple row where we're single crocheting in every single stitch. One note, make sure you count your stitches after this first row. You want to have 43 single crochet, the same exact amount as when we started this, because we're going to work more puff stitches and we need the stitch multiple to be the same. So here I'm just single crocheting across, pretty simple. I'm on row 8 right now, but you're going to do this for row 9 and row 10 also. So you have a total of 4 single crochet rows. Alright, so here my 4 rows of single crochet are done. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And at this point you know everything you need to know in order to make this scarf, except for the row repeats. So in order to make this scarf into an actual scarf, you're going to go back and repeat rows 2 through 10 as many times as you'd like. So you're going back to the very first puff stitch row. We're now set up with these single crochet that you can work that puff stitch row across in the exact same way. So you're just going to repeat rows 2 through 10. A section of puff stitches, a section of single crochet, section of puff stitches, section of single crochet, until the scarf is as long as you want. I did a total of 117 rows for a length of about 58 inches. If you're following gauge, then that's how many rows you'll want to work. If you're not following gauge, you can just work until you get the length you want. And then once you get that, we will move on to the finishing steps. Alright, so here my scarf is all done. I have it to the length I want. I have it kind of folded up because it's really big and won't fit on the whole screen, but if I were to count all these sections here, a puff stitch section and then a single crochet section counts as 1. I have 13 total. So here is the end of the scarf. When you get to the end, you're actually going to end just a little bit differently. Instead of doing 4 single crochet rows on your last repeat, you're only going to do 3, and that's because when we sew it together, we have a single crochet row here at the bottom of the other end. So that's going to make our 4 rows put together when we sew it together. So once you have it to the length you want and you've done your 3 rows of single crochet, it's time we can assemble it all together. To start assembling, you're just going to fold your scarf in half. You're going to want to make sure that the right sides are together, so the wrong side is facing up. The way you can tell is just by looking at this first row right here. The right side is the side with the single crochet. So row 1 was the right side. You can see it kind of looks like the wrong side from the back. So just make sure the wrong side of that row is facing up, and then just fold the scarf in half, make sure it's not twisted at all, and then you're going to have your 2 ends that we're just going to crochet together. So grab your hook again, and we're going to go through this loop. This side of the scarf that we were still working on, we haven't fastened it off, and we want this row that we just did to be on the inside. So we're going to now be working like we're on a right side row of this side that we've been working on for a while now. So go ahead and get started by chaining 1, turning like you were with a regular row, but this time we're just going to be slip stitching the ends of these 2 sides together. So insert your hook into the first stitch of the working side, and then this is the chain side. We're just going to go into the stitch right there on the end, pull through, and make a slip stitch. And we're just going to slip stitch these ends together all the way across. So nothing really hard here, just match up the ends as best you can, go through both sides, slip stitch, and repeat. You don't want to pull these slip stitches too tight, just kind of make them like any other stitches so that they're not pulling tight against the rest of the scarf. You just want it to feel like regular stitches right here. And this seam is going to be on the inside when we are done. So just go ahead and repeat that across, and I'll meet you back when I get to the end. So here's my seam getting closer. When you get close to the end, you just want to kind of count the rest of your stitches and make sure you're on track to finish. So on this side I have 3, 6, 7, and on this side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm right on track, and I can just keep going across till I get to the end. Just keep slip stitching. And there is our last one. So at this point you can grab your scissors, cut your yarn, and fasten off, and that is it. You are done with your infinity scarf. At this point you can turn it inside out and just kind of smooth out the place where you just did that seam. It will, as you rub it and just kind of smooth it out, it will look a lot more natural. I hope you guys enjoyed making the Snowbank Infinity scarf. If you did, I would sure appreciate if you liked this video and came and subscribed for lots more free crochet patterns, stitch tutorials, and all the like. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.